Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Now on this video I'm going to show you how to make this pretty bonnet, and the bonnet matches this beautiful little blanket. The video for this blanket is already on my YouTube channel and you'll find that on there. So I'm going to move that out of the way. And the little bonnet is really simple. The back is a very simple circle, and we have that same double cluster pattern with a front post stitch. Don't let that put you off. It's really easy. If you've watched the blanket tutorial, then this is going to be just as easy to do, so don't let it put you off. If you haven't tried this stitch already, or this little pattern, don't be put off by it because it is really easy. I haven't decorated the bonnet other than putting on some ribbon to tie, because I think it's a nice pretty pattern, and when I tried putting some decoration on it, it really took it away from that pretty pattern. And the little scalloped edge, I'll just frame a baby's face absolutely beautiful. Maybe not to 3 months, depends on your tension and the hook you use. If you want a bigger hat, the easiest thing to do is to use one size bigger hook, or you can add another round onto the circle. If you want to make a much larger hat, then just keep adding the rounds on until you're happy with it. So I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful little bonnet. So the yarn I'm using is one that's called Feels Like Butter. You can use any soft baby yarn that you want. This is about as thick as a double knitting yarn. I've got a 5mm hook. That's a slightly smaller hook than what we use to make the actual blanket in this pattern. So first of all, what we're going to do is we're going to do this inner circle. I'm going to show you how I do what's called a magic circle. It saves you from doing a chain of 3 and then trying to slip and get into the little hole of the chain of 3. So to do a magic circle, put the yarn on your hand and make sure the tail end of your yarn is facing down here, down. Bring the yarn behind the back of your hand and over the front and cross it over that tail. So the tail is on the bottom. This will only work properly if your tail is down on the bottom. Give it a little pull. Put your hook under the yarn that's your tail. So that's the tail. So what you're going to do is you're going to put your hook through and just grab that yarn and pull it through to the front like this. Kind of hold on to it, my tail a little bit. Take your working piece of yarn, that's the long part, wrap it around your hook and bring it through that stitch that you made. Now that's going to lock all that into place, and it looks like you've got a little lasso now, and when you pull that, that little circle becomes smaller. And when you use a magic circle, you can pull it in really tight and you don't have a hole in the middle here. So if you practice with that, it's so much quicker and so much easier doing this than doing 2 or 3 chains and then slip stitching it to join it. So to start this part of the little hat, we're going to use a treble crochet stitch. If you're in the USA, that's a double crochet stitch. So that one is counting as our first stitch. So we're going to chain another 2. So we've got a chain of 3 all together. That counts as your first treble crochet. We're going to put another 11 treble crochets inside this ring. You've got to count that as your first treble crochet. We need 12. We need a count of 12 stitches. So that's your first treble crochet. yarn over through the hole and bring your yarn through and just do your treble crochet through 2 loops, yarn over and through 2 loops. So that's us got 2. Count your chain. Some people are saying to me, I don't get the right number. I either get 13 or only get 11, but you've got to count that chain. So that's 1, 2. We need 12. We need a count of 12. That's 3 and 4. I'm on my last treble crochet. That's 12. I'm going to count my stitches to make sure. Count your stitches. Count that chain of 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12. Now what you're going to do is take the tail end of your yarn and just give it a little pull. Just pull it, and it's going to pull that hole nice and tight. So you don't need to sew it. When you do a chain and you do a slip stitch chain, usually you get quite a large hole and you've got to sew it. You don't need to do it with this. What you're going to do now is you're going to join your circle by just slip stitching into the top of that chain of 3. So you've got your 1, 2, 3. Go into the top of that chain, pull your yarn through and just slip through that stitch. And that gives you your first little circle. That's given us this circle here. So now we're going to do an increasing circle. All the other circles are increasing. We're going to increase the size. So we're going to do this circle here now. So you're going to chain 3. 1, 2 and 3. We're going to put 2 stitches. We're going to put 2 treble crochets into the top of each stitch all the way around, and we should end up with a count of 24. So for this first one, I'm going to put a stitch right into that little gap there. Can you see that little gap? So yarn over and go in that very first gap at the bottom of your chain of 3. So that's my first 2 done. So into this next stitch right beside it, yarn over, and we're going to put 2 treble crochets into this same stitch, 1 and 2. If you're in the USA, this is a double crochet. In the UK, it's a treble crochet. So we've got 2 in that stitch and 2 in that stitch. We're going to put 2 into the top of every stitch all the way around our little circle. So I've counted all my stitches and I've got 24. Make sure you count that chain of 3 as your first stitch. So all the way around I've got 24 stitches. So now I'm going to slip stitch into the third chain of that chain of 3. 1, 2, 3. Just slip into the top of that. So pull your yarn, make your loop and just pull it through that one. So now we've got 24 stitches. So our next row is this row here. The next row is the third row. And on the third row we're going to put 1 single crochet in between our double ones. So that's how we're going to increase this one. So we're going to do a chain of 3. It's 1, 2 and 3. So that counts as the first treble crochet. So into this next stitch here we're going to put 2 treble crochets. 1 and 2. Into this stitch we're only going to put 1 treble crochet, or that's a double crochet if you're in the USA. The next stitch gets 2, 1 and 2, The next stitch just gets one, so it's one double up, one double up, one. So this next one's going to get two, so we're going to double the stitches in this one. That's one and two, then one into the next stitch, all the way around the hat. So I've got one more stitch to put on this round, and that's that round complete. And we're going to join it, just slip stitch into the top of that chain of three, pull your yarn through and pull it through that stitch. So this is what your little hat looks like now. So we've got 1, 2, 3 rounds. We've only got 2 more to go. So we're going to chain 3 for the next round. So that counts as my first treble crochet. So into the next stitch I'm going to put 1 treble crochet. So that's 2 single treble crochets. Into the next one we're going to put 2 treble crochets into the same stitch. So that's 1 and then 2. Then we're going to put 2 single trebles into the next 2 stitches. So 1 into that stitch and 1 into that stitch. And then we'll put 2 into the next stitch. So instead of having 1 treble in between our increase, we're going to have 2 single treble crochets in between our increase stitches. So we need to put 1 into this stitch, 1 into the next stitch, and then 2 treble crochets into this next stitch. Now if you're going to make a great big circle, that's all you do. You just increase the amount of single trebles in between your increase. Your increase is where you have 2 in the same stitch. So our next row, this one has 2 in between. So we've got our increase there, we've got 2 single trebles and then 2 into the next stitch. The next row it'll be 3. We'll put 2 into the stitch and then we'll have 3 singles in each stitch and then a double. The next stitch will be 4 in between, the next one will be 5. If you want a bigger hat, you just keep increasing it the way I have done. And that way you can make a really big hat if you want to make a big adult size, or for like maybe a 7 or 8 year old, you can make the hat bigger that way. So this last round of the back is a single treble in every stitch. So you're going to put a single crochet into every stitch all around your hat. If you're in the USA, that's a double crochet into every stitch all the way around. So we're not increasing at all on this round. So I'll do my single crochets all the way around and I'll come and I'll show you what to do next. So I'll finish my last stitch and I'm going to slip stitch into the top of that chain of 3 like that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave my little tail for sewing in. Just going to pull that through. It's much easier if you just finish your circle off for your hat. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start working down this way on the bonnet. I'll turn it the right way around. We're going to start working down this way. So that is the back of our little hat like that. So to make it come this way, I'll move my scissors. where we did all our chains of 3 is going to be the bottom of the hat. So turn it around to the wrong side. So make sure you've got the wrong side facing you. And what you're going to do is, around the hat, we're going to pick up the stitches just like we did in the other hats that we did. In between each of these posts at the bottom of that row you've just done, in here, we're going to pick these up as a stitch. So you can see where all the chains are. That's the back end. This is the inside. Do it from the inside facing you. So just put your hook through, put your yarn over your hook and pull it through that space. I'm just going to pull that tail over to that side. So you're going to chain 3, 1, 2 and 3. Now you go into the next space, put your yarn over and go in to the next space between those 2 posts of that last row. Pull your yarn through and finish your treble crochet. This is a double crochet if you're in the USA. Might be easier just to fold it over like that. So yarn over and go between the bottom of the next 2 posts. You'll see all the little holes and you have to go in between those posts and pick up a stitch and treble crochet. Yarn over in between the next 2 and pull your yarn through. So what you're looking for is this little bar here. There's a little hole and you go through and that's the little bar between those 2 stitches on that one. So yarn over and pick up that stitch. And what it does is it pushes that last row that we just did like this. It makes that little ridge all around your hat and it enables you to start working down this way on the for the body of your hat. So I'm going to do this all around my hat, picking up 1 stitch in between those posts of that row, picking up a stitch down here in between there, and I'll see you when I get to the other end. So I finished picking up stitches all around that rim that I showed you. I'm just going to slip stitch into the top of this chain of 3 to complete my circle. Pull your stitch through and through and that will join up your little hat. And this is what we've got. We'll stitch all the tails in later. So you've got the rim, the back of the hat, really simple. You can, if you want, go on to one of the other videos that I've done of a baby bonnet and you can put that back on and still do this pattern with it. So it's up to you. You can do this plain circle on the back, or you can go on to one of my other bonnet tutorials and follow the back for that and then follow the pattern for this part of the hat. This is a beautiful lilac, by the way. It's a very beautiful colour. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start the pattern for the body of the bonnet. So we're going to do a chain of 3. So chain 3 stitches, 1, 2 and 3. Now turn your hat, turn it so that the outside of the hat is facing you. So turn it so that the outside is facing in, and that way the pattern, we're going to work that way with the pattern. So I've done my chain of 3. My next one is we're going to go in behind this post here, and that creates the lines that we've got. So we're going to go into the first post that's next to your chain of 3. So go in behind the whole post, that's called the post of a stitch. Just like we did in the blanket, pull your yarn through, yarn over, through 2 loops, yarn over and through 2 loops. So that gives us the start of this line, these lines. That gives us that part there. We're going to skip 2 stitches. So skip 1, 2, yarn over. We're going to do 2 treble crochets into this stitch, 1 chain and then another 2 treble crochets all into that one stitch. So if you're in the UK, this is a treble crochet. If you're in the USA, it's a double crochet. So yarn over, through 2 loops, yarn over and through 2 loops. Put another one into that same stitch, the same stitch, chain 1 and then another 2 trebles to complete this cluster in this stitch, all into the same stitch, 1 and 2. We're going to skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, and we're going to go and do a front post stitch right through that one there. Pull your yarn through 2 loops and through 2 loops. We're going to skip 2 stitches, that's 1, 2, and into this one we're going to do that repeat again of the pattern. So it's 2 trebles, 1 chain and 2 trebles all into the same stitch. Chain 1 and put 2 trebles into the same stitch. So we end up with 2 trebles, 1 chain and 2 trebles all into that one stitch. We're going to skip 2 stitches and do our front post stitch, and just go right through to the back and bring it through so you've got that whole post of that stitch on your hook. Skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, and we're going to do a little cluster into this one, 2 trebles, 1 chain and 2 trebles all into the same stitch. So 1 chain and another 2 trebles, 1 and 2. Skip 2, 1, 2 and do a front post stitch all the way around the bonnet. Skip 2, 1, 2 and do a little cluster, 2 treble crochet, 1 chain and 2 treble crochet all into that same stitch. Chain 1, 2 more trebles into there, that's 1 and 2. Skip 2, 1, 2 and we're going to do that front post. Skip 2, 1, 2 and 2 trebles, 1 chain and 2 trebles into the next stitch. That's 2 trebles, 1 chain and 2 trebles all into that same stitch. We're going to continue doing that all the way around the hat. My last little back post stitch to finish. Then what I'm going to do is just this one round, I'm going to join it into the top of this chain of 3. 1, 2, 3. Into the top of that chain of 3 and just slip stitch it to join. Now these little ends, we'll sew them in with a darning needle. Now this is the last time that we're going to join the actual bonnet. So the next time we're just going to work our way around the hat and then back again, and then around the hat and then back again until we're finished. So I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2 and 3, and there's our back post stitch. It's all ready and waiting for us there. So do your back post stitch. We're going to go across to our little cluster and into the middle, that chain 1 of our little clusters of 2s. Yarn over, we're going to put our 2 trebles, 1 chain and our 2 trebles into this space. So 2 treble crochets, 1 chain and 2 treble crochets all into that same space. Above the other one that's there. We're going to go straight across to our front post stitch here. So yarn over through that stitch. You can clearly see where you're going now and where the pattern is. There's a little cluster again. We're going into the middle of those 2 trebles and the 1 chain. We're going into the space. So yarn over, put your 2 trebles, 1 chain and 2 trebles into this space. Chain 1, 2 treble crochet. If you're in the USA, this is a double crochet. That's 2. We're going to move over to the front post stitch here. Just go straight over, skip those stitches to your little front post. And we're back to the little pattern, the little cluster. We're going to go into the middle of that little cluster. 2 trebles, 1 chain and 2 trebles. All into that chain space. My second little set for my cluster. That's 2. Then we're going to move over to that front post stitch. And you're going to continue like that around the bonnet. My last front post stitch. Do that one. I've got 1 stitch left here. I'm going to do a normal treble crochet into that stitch. Just a normal treble crochet. Now we're not going to join it to this chain of 3. We're not joining the hat this time. So now what you're going to do is chain 3, 1, 2, 3 and turn your hat. Now we're on the wrong side of the hat and our front post stitch is here. So what we have to do, put your yarn over and you're going to go and do a back post stitch this time. We're coming in from the back around the front of that stitch and out the back. Pull your yarn through, put 3 stitches, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over and through 2 loops. That's called a treble back post stitch. So it keeps our little line on the right side of our hat. So now we're just going to continue to do that all the way around to the other side. We're on our cluster now, so we're going into the middle of that little cluster of 2 into the chain stitch, just as you normally would. That's our first treble crochet, second treble crochet, 1 chain, and 2 more treble crochet all into that same space in the middle of that cluster of the previous row. So again, our little post is on this side. So yarn over and we're going to do a back post. So come from the back of the hat, make sure this yarn stays around the hook. Put your finger on it. So in through that hole and out through the hole to the back. Pull your yarn through. You've got 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops. We're doing it that way because this is the right side of the hat and this is the wrong side of the hat. This is the inside. So back to our cluster again. So you've got your little cluster here and we're going into that chain space. So just skip these stitches here and into that chain space. 2 trebles, 1 chain and 2 treble crochet. That's 1 and 2, chain 1, remember that chain of 1, and 2 more treble crochet into that same space in the middle of your little cluster. So we're back to the back post stitch again. You can clearly see it in there. So yarn over, come in from the back and out to the front, or out to the back, sorry. Pull your stitch through, yarn over through 2 loops, yarn over and through 2 loops. If you get it wrong, you'll clearly see it because your stitch will be on this side, you'll have that ridge. And this is what we're looking for, this here. You've got your little ridges on the right side of your bonnet. Now we're going to work all the way around the bonnet to the back, and once we've done that we'll work back around to this side, back and forward, and we're going to do 9 patterns. So you'll have 9 of these little flower shapes, just like this one. So you're going to have 9 rows of your pattern. Just remember when you're on the inside that you do your back post from that way, and when it's facing this way you do your back post this way. So when your hat's facing this way, make sure your hook goes through that way, and when it's facing this way you have to come from the back and through that gap and through that gap that way, and that'll keep that line on the outside of your bonnet. That is all you need to do to get this beautiful little bonnet. Do 9 repetitions of the pattern. As you're making a bigger hat, you may need to do more lines. Just do them until you think that it's suitable for the size of hat that you've made. Now all you need to do after that is just sew on a little piece of ribbon on either side of your bonnet so that you can tie it over the baby's head. And that's it. That's that little bonnet all finished. So there's a little bonnet, and this is a little blanket that matches it. Now the blanket video is on my channel if you go and have a look at that, and you can make yourself this beautiful little baby set. A really simple But it looks complicated, but it's not. It's really simple to do. So thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel. Just click on that subscribe button. Also, if you click on the notification bell, YouTube will notify you when I put up another video, and it'll give you the chance to see it quite quickly. So until the next time, happy crafting, and I'll see you all again soon. Goodbye.